at the end of last week, there was some news that shocked, absolutely shocked Bitcoiners that was released on Friday, and that is that Ripple acquired Fortress Trust. Why does this matter? Welcome back, everyone. This is definitely a story that I did not have on my 2023 bingo card, and yet here we are. So this space never ceases to amaze us. Now, for the people that were expecting our normal weekly episode today, unfortunately, we do not have one. Instead, I am just dropping a clip. Walton was at the TAB conference this weekend, and he pulled together some material. So we will most likely have a special on this that we're going to release later on this week. But anyways, I think this is the big news that totally just sent shockwaves through the Bitcoin space and the quote unquote crypto space. Let's dive into it. Let's dive into this because look, it's no secret, right? One of the biggest Bitcoin DCA stacking apps, which is Swan, uses Fortress as their custodian. They did use Prime Trust as their custodian. So, there's obviously a lot of questions. And I know that CEO Corey Clipston already went on Simply Bitcoin to provide some background on this. But anyways, look, we're gonna dive into this. We're gonna dive into this story and maybe just shed like a different perspective on it. Okay, here we go. Ripple acquires Fortress Trust, expands licensing portfolio in the U.S. Fortress Trust provides regulatory and technology infrastructure for blockchain organizations. The company holds a Nevada trust license that allows it to custody financial assets. The acquisition is in addition to the more than 30 licenses Ripple holds across the country as a money transmitter, along with a BIT license in New York, required digital currency businesses operating in the state. According to Ripple's announcement, the technology and licensing held by Fortress Trust complements its business and product roadmap. This is where we start to get some of the signal, okay? Ripple first invested in the company in 2022 via a seed round. So just to make it clear, Ripple was one of the initial investors in Fortress Trust, right? Which Scott Purcell, who was the CEO of Prime Trust for a time, him and two other of his upper directors went along with him to Fortress, and they also took some of the IP. Not saying that has anything to do with it, but it is pretty interesting, right? As an early investor in Fortress blockchain technologies, we've had a chance to get to know the team, its vision and technology. Since their launch in 2021, they've built an impressive business with reoccurring revenue and strong roster of both crypto native and new to crypto customers, said Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple. Now, there's an interesting piece there, right? He specifically said that they have an impressive business with reoccurring revenue. Keep that in mind. In May, the company announced the acquisition of Metaco, a Swiss digital asset custodian and tokenization provider, for $250 million. Ripple plans to invest in Fortress parent company Fortress Blockchain Technologies and its affiliated firm Fortress Pay Services, the announcement reveals. Ripple claims to be present in over 55 countries offering payout services through blockchain technology. Obviously, Bitcoin Twitter became, Bitcoin X, whatever. I'm just going to call it Bitcoin Twitter because X just sounds weird. Obviously, it was just a huge shitstorm. And I'm not going to cover every single different angle. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to stick to some basic tweets that kind of relate back to this article. Okay, so let's dive into it. Here's what Mr. Hoddle had to say. He goes, this needs to be said. He goes, now that Ripple is officially attached to Swan, it's probably a good idea for you to stop doing business with them. You're literally helping fund Bitcoin FUD. Okay. And Corey, who's the CEO of Swan, responded back, Fortress loses money, so zero flows up. Anyways, will be a moot point very soon. I just want to go back to this specific comment here by Brad Garlinghouse, specifically about Fortress blockchain technologies. They built an impressive business with reoccurring revenue. Fortress loses money, so zero flows up. Okay. Anyways, I digress on that. I'm not intimately knowledgeable about their finances or anything like that. I just find that kind of strange. So the CEO of Ripple believes that they're making tons of money, but Corey, who owns Swan, who uses Fortress for their custodian, says they're losing money. Anyways, right? Hearsay, but let's continue on. Fellow Bitcoiner Bradley Ryan responds back and says, it may be said that fate has a wicked, ironic sense of humor. This must feel like a kick in the nads for Swan. While all the haters are busy cackling, just remember, karma can be a bitch. True. What happens now is a measure of character. I can appreciate that. Corey responds back and goes, indeed, a lot of people forgot the mission lately, bear market things. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. It's the bear markets are absolutely brutal. So definitely can't disagree. And of course, you just got to leave it up to the Bitcoiners, right? Corn Tango responds back, get on the mission. And of course, it's a meme of Swan being at the NASDAQ, right? Because, for essentially IPO hopes. So Corey responded back and goes, if we end up public, it ain't the end goal. Life as a public company sucks compared to remaining private. This is true. This is true, especially in terms of having to hire administrative staff and dealing with the constant reporting. This narrative will age poorly. And Contango responded back and goes, I'm sure you're dreading that IPO payday. Okay, all right. a lot of cheap shots, a lot of stuff going back and forth. But I do find it interesting, right? I do find it interesting because, Corey said, if we end up public, it isn't the end goal. Here's a tweet from September 7th, which was 2 days, which was essentially 2 days after this one. So Swan is looking for a CFO with experience in that role for a U.S. public company listed on NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. So it may not be the end goal, but they definitely are looking to go public. And again, that's neither, that is neither here nor there in terms of the story with Ripple acquiring Fortress Trust. I just think it's funny that all of this de-evolves into all of this nitpicking and shit slinging and while everybody's picking on Swan, other Barry with the interesting comment, right? Swan is not alone. If you use Fold app, your coins are owned by the XRP army. And here's the screenshot of Fold has changed custodians for purchased Bitcoin. I think an interesting point that was made here by the account Sunny Poe, in-house custody. Okay, so there is one company that does it right now, and that is River Financial. And that, I believe the CEO is Alex Leishman for that one. So Corey responded back to Sunny Poe, and he goes, separation of brokerage and custody is a much better model and required for the wealth and retirement markets. But it needs the inputs of that model to be high quality. We've been working hard on better inputs for the past year. We'll announce big news soon. Okay, so look, right? A lot of times I get grief for quote unquote shit talking, and I frankly don't give a fuck. I mean, everybody's entitled to say whatever the hell they want to say. Anybody who believes that, I'm just shit talking, well, go ahead, make a video that claims that I'm shit talking and dispute what I'm shit talking about. I'm just showing tweets and showing news that comes from other sources. So is it really me shit talking, or is it me just showing the information? Guess it's a matter of interpretation. But look, the point is, right? The point is that a vertically integrated business is much more expensive than having a business provide custody services. Whereas the front end and the marketing are essentially where all of your expenses are. Um, and look, to each their own, right? Anybody can choose whatever business model they want, but we unfortunately, like we all have to deal with the repercussions of our actions, right? That is just the reality of the world that we live in. So, when if you're custodying your funds um, with a third party, then the reality is that you are subject to that third party. You are essentially now susceptible to their points of failure. And not only that, but you're also, as a business, your reputation then essentially relies on that other business's reputation. And that, again, like you're just putting, people are putting a lot of faith in that, and that is very difficult. And I think that, I mean, look, Bitcoiners are absolutely ruthless, especially when it comes to the memes. I mean, it was just since that news broke, it was just insane. Now, the question came up, like if you're buying from Swan, are you effectively, funding Ripple Labs? I mean, look, indirectly, you kind of are. I think another point to this story is that Ripple is actually going to be going for an IPO of their own, right? An initial public offering of their own, which I actually think is a huge kick in the nuts to XRP token holders because, and this is something I've explained in the past, you get no rights as a token holder. You have no rights. You have there is no responsibility from Ripple Labs or XRP, right? Because supposedly they're different. They're different companies. They're not the same thing. But anyways, but yeah, they have no responsibility to you. There is no contractual agreement just because you bought the tokens or anything like that. You have no recourse for your funds. But you see, as a shareholder, you do have some recourse. Granted, it's obviously kind of watered down, but you still have that recourse, and we see it all the time when we see these companies where the stocks go flying really high and then all of a sudden come crashing down. The lawyers show up and right away they start trying to sue the public company, right, for essentially painting a fraudulent picture or, fluffing up the numbers or whatever it may be. Okay. So, but the point is that you have recourse, but with the tokens, you don't. And I think that Ripple's IPO is actually a massive kick in the teeth to the XRP bag holders. Don't get me wrong though, Bitcoiners have been telling you for the longest time, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you hold this shitcoin. It's not about their stupid token, right? It really isn't. And if you want to have, and again, I am not trying to tell you that you should be investing in XRP or investing in the IPO. I personally, that's not what I am going to do, and I have no intention of doing that. My point is just to say that if you were actually trying to get exposure to Ripple Labs' earnings, that is the way that you would get exposure to their earnings, not by buying some shitcoin that they create out of thin air. But look, I definitely, going back to this whole thing with Swan, it would seem that indirectly, when you're DCAing with them from this point forward, that you are in some way funding Ripple Labs because, right, they are owned by, right, they are owned by Fortress, and I mean this goes back to, if we look at other companies that are conglomerates, right, that own multiple other companies, those companies' earnings become part of the conglomerates, the large, right, the large umbrella corporations' earnings, depending on how they structure the business. But no matter what, that umbrella business is benefiting from that economic activity. So look, I mean that's just absolute garbage. I think that Sonny Poe hit the nail on the head. I think that I think if Swan would actually want to save their reputation in this case, or pivot to do the right thing, I do think that vertical integration would be the way to go. Now, I did see a comment from somebody also saying, well, why don't you just go with the bull Bitcoin model? Okay. And essentially, Corey had responded that, yeah, Bull Bitcoin is a great business, but that is a very, that's not the way to onboard the next quote unquote 10 million people. I'm not 100% sure that the structure that Swan chose is necessarily the way to onboard 10 million people. I'm not sure that anybody's method is the correct method, because I think that essentially different methods appeal to different people. And there's some people that, again, that genuinely, for them, all they care about is the user experience. Some people, all they care about is the user experience. I open an app, I do quick swipes, things happen, I don't have to think. Okay, there's other people, they're not really interested in that type of stuff. They're much more interested in like some type of a service, right? And they see the trade-offs as being worth it. I think the safest thing, the most important thing, okay, is really that this is all a lesson in self-custody. Okay. If and it's a lesson in self-custody. It's a lesson in verifying and not trusting, right? Even me, like it's like I'm just a pleb like another pleb, right? Like I'm not perfect either. Nobody's freaking perfect. And yeah, the only thing I can do to keep myself safe is self-custody. That's what I can do. And I can continue to educate myself, as I obviously implore every single one of you guys do as well. Guys, let me know what you think about this whole situation. Put it down in the comments. Let me know. That is the end of our clip. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Help us grow the channel. And I will catch you all tomorrow.